Well, good morning everyone, I hope you're all well. It's Friday the 22nd of November today, and I've been, my hand's been forced really today. I would have normally been heading to another mark down in Suffolk, but the tides are not lining up for any daytime sessions. So what I've decided to do, and the other factor is the weather. We've had sort of a whole week now solid of really sharp overnight temperatures, -3 most of the week. It was 1 degree this morning, so it's a slight improvement, and the temperature today is going to get up to about 5 or 6 degrees, whereas yesterday I don't think it got up to more than 3 degrees all day. The other factor in choosing where I'm going to fish today is the wind. So we've also had quite blustery, strong winds battering the North Norfolk coast, and they started on Monday night. We had another Norwich Angling Club match down at Kelling on Monday night, and by the time the match finished, the wind had picked up to quite strong, and it whipped the sea up as well. There was a massive swell, and it made things quite tricky at the end of that match. Tuesday and Wednesday, I would say North Norfolk coast was unfishable. It calmed down a little bit yesterday, and it's about the same as it was yesterday today again. Still quite rough. It takes a few days for that swell to drop out. So that was out of the question as well. The other factor in the wind is that tonight, literally as soon as it's dark, 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, the wind's going to start picking it up, and over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, you can see there's going to be a massive increase in the wind, and that's going to be back to dangerous proportions again. So I thought I'd sneak a quick session in today, and it's going to be on the east coast, and I thought what I would do is pick up a mark which I didn't cover simply because I was actually doing the guide on Gorleston Beach, but I popped into Gorleston Pier on the way. But unfortunately, when I did get there, the car park was all shut up, and it meant like leaving the car and trekking right round just to show you the pier. I had no intention of fishing it that day, but it was a bit awkward for me to get in there and sort of film the layout and everything. So that's what I intend to do today. I'm going to head for Gorleston Pier, hopefully show you where to park. If the car park on the pier is not open, I'll show you outside on the side of the road parking, and then we'll have a wander in, see if we can get set up, and I'll go through sort of the basics, what you've got to sort of take into account when you're fishing the pier. As I say, the wind today, as you can see, is only going to get to only 21 miles per hour, but it is in a northwesterly direction, so on the pier that should actually be in my favour. It should be coming from almost behind me if I can get to the area of the pier that I want to fish. I'll explain more when I get down there about the location, and we'll run through it then. So that's the plan. I'm now on the A47. I've got, it's about 45 minutes from my house to Gorleston Pier, but that's not taken into consideration either the Acle Strait traffic and also the traffic around the port area. It gets quite busy and it can get quite congested. So I reckon I've got about, I don't know, 25-30 minutes to go, and once we get down there, I'll take you through the parking and the mark. So once we come into Gorleston town centre, I normally cut through down, it's called England's Lane, and it takes you right past the Gorleston tackle centre. So if you need to pick up any bait or bits and pieces tackle wise, that's directly in front of me now, and then that road down at the bottom obviously leads round to the pier. So there's the tackle shop. It is literally 2 minutes away from the pier, probably about 5 minutes walk, that's all. So yeah, continue around here, there is people who fish off this wall and in the river itself here. I've never actually tried that. I've heard it's very snaggy and the tide pool can be horrendous, so it's quite challenging fishing conditions. So if you carry on round, you see on the right here there's a cafe. Got one cafe there, you've got another one actually on the pier itself. What I'm going to do is try and squeeze in one of these little car park spaces here. I believe the car park is still, oh no, I believe it's open. Let's have a look. Let's have a look if the car park's open. Yep. So it looks like they've replaced all the machinery with cashless parking now, so there'll be machines. There'll be cameras as well, so please be very careful about driving in, driving out. If you get out and have a look round, chances are you're going to be picked up on these cameras. And there is the pier in front of you. So what I might do for today's exercise, it's actually, well, they're saying on there up to 2 hours is £3, all day is £8. I was told it was 6, so what I'll do is nip outside, I think, and park just outside. But if you've got mobility issues and you don't want to walk too far, obviously come in, pay for your parking. Hopefully it won't pick me up. It'll only pick me up coming in and straight out and not actually parking. So what I'm going to do is spin round. On the right hand side here is some free parking, beach walkers that you can normally find somewhere. And if you want a nice breakfast or a warm drink before you go out into the pier, cafe dead opposite. So I'm going to slot into this one here and get sorted out. So that's all me parked up here. I'm out on the free bit here. Obviously in front of the hotel as well. I think that's controlled by the pier hotel. I'm not sure if there's a machine over there or anything where you can pay. You've got to be very careful when you pull up in these car parks, because if you don't pay and they come out, they could clamp you, or you could get one of those summon things like I got when I parked up at the pleasure beach. And it's a lot of hassle to get them sort of things sorted out. So definitely free parking here, and I'd say it's a 5-minute walk from me with my gear. What I'm going to do is get some warm gear on now. I've brought me thermal bib and brace, thermal jacket and thermal boots. So I'm not got no shelter today, because I always find it's quite hard to actually get set up with a shelter on here without the risk of it being blown away. So hopefully I might be able to get up near the hut there, the building on the pier, which I'll show you, and get a bit of shelter from that. Okay, so once you come through, obviously into that car park area there, that's barriered off. This end here, there's no vehicles allowed up here, so you sort of get to that barrier there. You could park where the white car is there, and literally you can walk straight across there where those benches are and fish there. So at 50 yards if you wanted a short walk. There is also access to the river, but as I say, the river can be very, very snaggy, and also the tide run through there can be absolutely horrendous. And every time I've seen people fishing there, they've lost a lot of gear. So personally, I'll avoid that. Maybe alright in the summer when it's not quite so much of a tide pool. That's Gorleston main beach over there, and this is the actual main pier. Now up the end there, this is my gear here. I've put it down behind this wooden slatted fence because that'll give me a little bit of protection from the wind if it comes from behind there. And also in the distance there, we've just had what looks like a big old dump of rain, which wasn't forecast, and that is jet black over there. They've just had that. So there's more access to the river there, right up to the building on the end, and that is the ideal spot to be, especially with today's wind, because you can literally get right up tight against that building and you're out the wind. Now there's a couple of guys there with a couple of rods each, There's also someone out on the very extreme point of the pier there. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to encroach on them today. There's plenty of room along here. All these railings are fishable. What I'm going to probably do is get set up here. As I say, use this as a bit of a windbreak. I'll set most of my gear up here, but add the rod literally over there on the end of that railing, and I might put the box there and sit with me back to the wind. It's going to be a little bit difficult to film today, but that's the gist of it. That's the layout of the pier. As I say, it's fairly comfortable fishing. Today's weather conditions are not going to make it comfortable, but we'll just have a little go and see what happens. The plan is probably high tide is around 2 p.m. I'll probably fish till 4:30 or dusk and then wrap up. So if you didn't pick that up on the way in, the car park now is £8 all day, and it's something like £3 after 6 p.m. So it used to be free after 6, and it used to be £6 all day. So if you was two of you, £4 each, still pretty good value. So I'd still consider parking there if you don't want to cart your gear. But literally, it took me 3 or 4 minutes to walk. Let's get some gear set up. Right, so what I've done is I've come over to the railings now. I've put all my gear tight up against this woodwork, and everything's lashed down. Because one thing I would say on the pier, if you put anything down loose, the wind will catch it and it's gone. And to that effect, I've even bungee corded my rod rest to the railings there, so that doesn't move. So I've got a nice secure rod hold. I've had a couple of test casts and they went out okay. I've got a couple of anglers join me next door already. It will fill up today because this is probably going to be the last opportunity for a bit of fishing for a few days, so I would have thought it's going to get busy. So what I'll do now is just quickly run through the rigs. It's nothing special today. It's going to be a usual. I'm going to start off with a 3-hook flapper on there, and it's going to be a mixture of, I've got some fresh blacks, some squid, and I've got a little bit of herring, a little bit of mackerel. So I'll tip off those blacks with that and see how we get on. Probably only going to be expecting the usual culprits this time of the year, which are going to be whiting, potentially a pouting, maybe a dogfish, maybe a dab. But that's what we'll do. We'll get set up now. I'll try and get the tripod somewhere where it's not too much in the wind, because I've come away from that wood over there where I set up. It is considerably more windy where I am. It's fishable, and it's only going to get worse. So that's my next job, get baited up and get out. Okay, so that's the first cast out. That's a 3-hook flapper, size 2 Arno hooks, 9-inch snoods, and I've put black lug squid on the bottom, black lug tipped with mackerel on the middle, and a straight piece of fish on the top. I've decided to just fish with one rod today. I think it could get silly if you've got 2 rods out. So I've gone with the Max Pro Mark II and a Dale Millionaire multiplier on there, £15 line, £70 shock leader. And as I say, I've just got a 3-hook flapper on there. What I might do is I might make up another flapper rig with 2 hooks and slightly bigger hooks, put on slightly bigger baits, just see really what the situation is in regards to any whiting out there or anything. I can't see there being much else. Full sun now, and that black weather's gone right out to sea, thank God. What I've done is I've left that out for about 10 minutes. But in the meantime, both the guys fishing next door, they've got 2 rods each, and they've reeled them in, and there's not one of them got a scrap of bait left on, so potentially crabs today. So I'm not going to waste too much time in getting my first cast in and rebaiting, because I think that could be the same. I have thrown it a little bit further out than they have, away from the pier. I don't think that necessarily make any difference, so I think that's the first thing I need to do is check, see what the bait situation is. just to emphasise, when you're fishing on this pier, just make sure that everything you're using is nailed down or anchored down or sheltered. So I've got all my tools and my bait inside the lip of my Innova tray, so nothing can blow out of there. The towel is trapped between that and my bait bucket underneath, and everything else is stored up against the woodwork or out the way of the wind, because if you drop anything, it'll go over the side and that's gone. You won't see that again. Every now and again you get little gusts of wind. It's just coming blank again, completely cleaned out. If we're going to catch anything today, I would have thought it's going to be between 2 and 4, just as that's high tide, and the light hopefully will drop down a bit then, the light levels. Typical winter's day scratching. Okay, so what you see I've done now, there's a bite on there, look. What you see I've done is I've pulled the rod rest round at a different angle so I can get a side on, and yeah, there's a bite on there. I've lashed it to the railings, and that's a good tip as well. Always bring a few of those bungee cords with you, because you can then attach things down and secure things like the rod rest so it won't move. So if you get a sudden gust of wind, it's not going to take your rod over. But yeah, that was just a lovely pull down, that was. Hopefully that will develop. I think it's on there. If it goes again, I'll get that in. Just another couple of taps on that. Yeah, I'm going to get that in. There's a little white and something on there. Little white, and then give a lovely good wrap down bite and a straight worm. So I shall put exactly the same out again. 2 straight worm on the top 2 hooks, bit of squid on the bottom 2 hooks, bit of squid on the top hook. I'm going to try and repeat the process. Away from the pier, just in case there's any snags. Some of these parts of the pier can be snaggy, especially if you go further out towards the end where more people fish. You tend to find that's where more snags are. More gears lost, builds the snag, becomes a problem. Just coming back this way a little bit, sometimes find it a little bit cleaner. So it's in roughly the same place. Just going to let that settle. I'll probably need to just tighten that up a fraction. So there's a tiny little bit of tide on there now, just pulling that tip. And then once that sets round, that sort of sprung back like a drop back last time. So that's the blank saver. At this time of year, just to catch anything is a bonus. Just had another little pull on that. I think I was probably right. Those two guys with the 2 rods each, they're working quite hard for nothing really. They're getting stripped off very quickly. I think it may be because they're fishing a little bit closer to the pier. There's going to be more crab activity there, but it's like constant, 1 rod in, 1 rod out. As soon as they've done 1 rod, they're on the other rod, rebaiting. So I think single rod today, 3 hooks is the way to go. I'm not even doubling up with the rig. He's just had a little pouting. That's the first sign of a fish there. There's been a load of those little pouting around this year, and they are literally 6 to 7 inches long. Seagulls are quite friendly around here as well. I've had the little oyster catcher almost eaten out my fingers, a bit squid. Seagulls have cottoned on and now they're all queuing up for a bit of free food. Just got to make sure everything's anchored down and can't get blown away. Already had one nasty experience on Gorleston Beach recently. About halfway through the match, the wind started building, but there was an almighty gust, and that took, first of all, my bait station went flying, and with that, the majority of my worms, I had a little bit of fish and squid put by, but nearly all my worms were thrown over onto the sand, and then the next wave that come in washed a lot away. So that was my worms gone. And then basically, while I was trying to sort that out, all my tools, elastic, everything was all in the sand. On my hands and knees picking that up, and the rod stand's gone over as well. So the rod was face down into the sand. The reel, you couldn't even see the reel for the amount of sand on it. So it was a bit of a disaster. It was an hour to go in the match. I wasn't doing that particularly well, so I decided to have an early bath and just threw everything into my buckets and trudged off the beach in a strop. Next day it took a couple of hours to get rid of the sand out of everything. There was literally sand everywhere. Another bite on there. Let's get that one out. Down and start baiting up, and that's away again. So I'm not going to rush around today. I can sit there and let the other 2 hooks do their business. The idea is for a bit of a leisurely session. But yeah, 1 or 2 more fish showing now. Probably because the tide's pulling a little bit more, heading towards high tide. There it goes again. Bait these next 2 black lug baits before I attempt to bring that in. And that nice pull over that time. Right, that's the 2 black lugs, and I've also been baiting the top hook now with a strip of little herring. So they're all ready to go. And that's still bouncing around, so probably time to get that in. Yeah, there it goes. Double shot of whiting, and they're decent ones as well. And they both come on the worm. Both on the worm, neatly hooked. Right, just had another rebait. I've put worm on all 3 hooks now. Just tip the middle one off with a bit of fresh herring, just see if that makes a difference. Sorry for people who can only fish at the weekends, because tomorrow it's going to be absolutely horrendous conditions. So you go to work all week waiting for a bit of fishing at the weekend, and that comes along. There will still be people, I take it, who will go out and braid it. Right, so that's the 2 blacks ready on the needle. Just cut up a couple of bits of squid and herring to tip it with. Maybe a strip of mackerel. And what is a little bit disturbing is the amount of seabirds that are trailing bits and pieces around. I've got a little oyster catcher who's got what looks like 6 or 7 inches of bait elastic wrapped around one leg. Luckily it's not affecting him too much, and now I've just seen a seagull. It's obviously picked up a rig and it's got a big steel boom hanging on it and 3-foot trace, so that's not good. That's going to do him no good at all. So if you are fishing around these sort of urban places on these piers, don't leave nothing lying around, because that baited trace, if it was left on the ground, that they won't worry about coming in and snatching it. I'm making sure that mine's right next to me and that it's covered up when I go to the rod as well, because they're getting so brave, these birds. They'll jump up on your bait station. So there's at least 2 here now with trailing gear. The one with the bait elastic's not so bad because it's not attached to his other leg, but it could get tangled in something and sort of stop him. I would have thought he'd probably be able to nibble through that with his beak if he did get tethered, but it's not a nice look. As you can see, just round these feet there, got a little bit of elastic. I've tried to tempt him near me so I can grab him, but he's not that tame. And the rod's going again, so let's sort that out. So nice size whiting, nothing plump. I think it's quite big enough to take for tea, but we're getting there. Let's just get me the disclosure on this one. A nice stamp. So we've got a nice steady little stream now of fish at regular intervals, and I'll probably wait until I've had the next bite and reeled in, and I'll make yourself a cup of tea. That's the other thing, on days like today, make sure you bring something warm to drink. I've brought some hot water so I can make a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, little pot of milk, and I've also brought a couple of soups as well. I can just put in a mug and do those. That's important to keep warm on a day like this, because if you start getting cold you won't enjoy your session. There you go, a couple of little taps there already. All my little birds are all queuing up for their next cast off. They're sort of taking all the little offcuts that I'm chucking around, so making sure they're not covered in bait elastic, but little trimmings of squid and fish and that they're picking up off the bottom, off the floor. That's why they're hanging around. Those seagulls, they're a little bit more braver than the little birds, and they'll just come steaming in and they'll pick up a live rig if you're not careful. Typical, as soon as I get the tea out and the biscuits, bloody rod starts going. So unless it starts going over the side, it'll have to wait. Better ones. I wanted that rod tip pulled round. Right, 2 plain worm and 1 fish and squid, just for a bit of a change. Hopefully you can hear me okay, because the wind's definitely picking up now. It's twice as strong as when I got here. Well, I just punched that one out and that has gone absolutely miles. I know there's a bit of a tailwind, but I've recently had that millionaire apart, stripped it right down, cleaned it, re-oiled everything, put it all back together, and it's as smooth as silk now. And that has absolutely flown on the wind, that one. I don't think, as I say, you need to cast off of here, but you never know. Fishing as far away from everyone else's baits on a beach works, so why shouldn't it work on the pier? So we're approaching 1:30 now. Let me have a quick double check. Yep, 1:20. I think it's about an hour till high tide, and then I'll probably fish for maybe an hour after. I don't think I'm going to hang around till dark tonight. The chaps next door just had another little whiting. I think there's like everyone's now catching all the way round. Can't quite see what they're getting on the end because they're just a little bit too far away. But all I would say is at the end there you do get a lot more flow, and I would assume that the bigger fish do come off the end. I know in the summer a lot of smoothhounds come off the end there. I think it's because you're actually in the main flow, if you like. But this is a nice little workout this afternoon. A few bites, a little bit of sunshine, a little bit of wind. As long as it stays like this, you put up with it. Yeah, it's just starting to have a little tap now there. You get the initial little tap of what must be a tiny little fish on there, then you get a better one come along and whack it right over. I suppose I've had about 8 to 10 fish now so far in a couple of hours. Be the same here as well. As soon as nightfall comes, I should imagine you'll get 3 hooks full every cast, and maybe some better ones. Right, I've eventually got that out with the herring and squid cocktail. I had a little faff around with the rig because when I went to put that other one on, that 1/0 hook was hidden. So I've changed it to one with a 2/0 hook, and I've changed over to a simple pulley rig, single hook, but 2/0, so it's a bit more of the point exposed. Whacked out as far as I can again. See if we can't get something a little bit different. We get raised this time of year, and we do get the odd dogfish as well, so hopefully the fish baits and the squid will do the business. 2 o'clock now, so we're coming up to the high tide mark, just after 2. Probably fish it an hour down and then be on the way. Right, I've just seen another little bird having a little peck at something down there. When I went down to have a look to see what it was that little lot there. So you've got a rig there, looks like a leader of some description, 2 massive great big 2/0 hooks, I'd say, half a bag of squid, and it's just laid in the middle of the thing there. Now that's why these birds are getting tethered up. It doesn't take 2 seconds to just, that's my bucket, there's my rubbish in there from today, just chuck it in there like that. How long does that take? You cart that off, put it in the bin at home. If we don't sort of start looking after these birds and these piers, it'll get stopped. Fishing will get stopped on these places. Members of the public see that, fishing hooks lying around, straight away we get a bad name. And it wants the wrong person to see that, report it to the council, no more fishing on the pier. I've been getting little inquiries on that. That's that fish bait and squid, herring and squid. So I'm going to pull that in now, just in case it's crab sitting there mulling it. I'm going to bait up with my next one, which is the same. I think it's mackerel instead of herring. And we'll chuck that out, and that may be well be it for today. I'm going to give it one more cast after this. I've still got a few black lug here. I might just tip them off and have a little go with them as well. I'll probably think in the next half an hour, 3/4 an hour, that'll be it for me. The sun's now dipping down nicely, just over the top of high tide, and funny enough the wind's actually dropped a bit now, so it's altogether more pleasant. slightly better whiting on the old fishing squid. So as I said before, I am casting it as far as I can get it in this wind, which is quite a long way away from the pier. Don't know if that's an advantage or disadvantage. All I do know is earlier on, when those two guys who was fishing next to me were fishing closer in, they were getting stripped in seconds, whereas I was able to last a few minutes longer. So I think the further away from the pier, there's going to be slightly less crab activity. Well, there is today anyway. Yeah. Apart from that, I'll put the parking charges up as well. I think I'll put it up at the beginning and I'll put it up at the end. As I say, there has been an increase from £6 all day to £8. Still probably decent value if you don't want to leave your car right over on the road there, or if you're less mobile and you need to park. And then basically at £8, if you're here for the whole day, that's not too bad. If there's two of you, it's even better. Cafe just across from where I'm parked on the outside by the hotel. At various other times you've got all sorts of ice cream places and donuts and all that sort of thing just round to the right of the hotel there. Nothing on the end of the pier there at all. It's just the Coast Guard or the Yarmouth Coast Guard headquarters on the end there. So just remember as well, if you do come on the pier, just bring a plastic bag with you or a little bucket. Just even if it's only around where you're fishing, if you see anything lying there, just put it in there with your rubbish. If everyone done that, there wouldn't be no rubbish lying around on the pier. It's the only thing that makes it looks tatty. Probably by this time tomorrow there won't be nothing left, because the wind tonight is going to pick up so much it will clear all this rubbish straight into the sea. So yeah, apparently I've just spoke to those two guys, the bins are full to the brim. So that might be a thing that the council might twig, that if they empty the bins a bit more, people might use them. But I think the people who dump tackle on just on the pier here and don't worry about it won't be bothering about using bins in anyway, so that's no really excuse. So yeah, I'm going to probably wind this one in a minute. I've just had a little rattle tattle on there, which is going to be another whiting, no doubt. And that will be it for the day. I hope you've enjoyed the little tour of the pier. Had a few fish today, just to break the monotony. So if you come down here, it can be a nice, pleasant, comfortable venue to fish. I'll see you all again after this weekend's hurricane force winds. Probably be somewhere, hopefully again next time in Suffolk, weather and tides permitting. Thanks for watching. See you again.